Hey, Inspired Moneymaker. This episode is all about money mindset and how it can be the difference between being deep in debt to making millions of dollars. Episode 247 features Beate Chelette, entrepreneur, author, strategist.
Oh my God, money literally lies on the street. There is money absolutely everywhere. Look at that. I don't even have to look for money. Money finds me. Isn't this amazing? There's money absolutely everywhere. So I would talk to myself about changing my money mindset. And then I've had 25 cents on the street. I'm going, oh my God, what a brilliant day I had today. I found even more money than I've ever found, because our subconscious doesn't know it's a penny or 25 cents. So you can't say, oh, well, it's just a penny. What's that going to do? You have to make a big deal to get that message home that money is there for you to be found. And then money will come. It does. I mean, I'm living proof of it.
I'm Andy Wong, host of the Inspired Money podcast, where we share positive perspectives on money so we can have a bigger impact in our community and the world. This episode is brought to you by my company, Runnymede Capital Management. If you need help with financial planning, your investments, or setting up a 401k retirement plan for your business, schedule a call with me at inspiredmoney.fm/call. That's inspiredmoney.fm/CALL. We're fee-only, family-owned, and provide objective advice. Schedule a no-obligation call today. We have Beate Chelette on the show. Her entrepreneurial journey includes a crazy transition from being a broke single mom to cracking the code and then selling her business to Bill Gates for millions. Her book, Happy Woman, Happy World, teaches her proprietary strategies that can take any woman from overwhelmed to awesome. This episode is not exclusively for women. Today, Beate teaches entrepreneur strategies that grow authority and scale impact. In this episode, you'll learn about what a healthy money mindset looks like, changing your programming for success, and stay tuned to the end to hear why it's important to invest in yourself. Now let's get inspired with Beate Chelette. Beate, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Andrew, I was looking forward to it. Let's do it.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
Money is something that you have to work really, really hard for. And then if you're lucky, you have enough. And then if you're lucky, you can go on vacation. And then if you're lucky, you have enough to retire.
And what was it like for you in your childhood?
Well, I mean, I was brought up by middle class parents. We had a little townhouse on the outskirts of a city in Germany called Nuremberg. And compared to other people, we were much better off than most other people. So we did go on vacation. My father did work a lot, and it was a lot of hard work. And and so that's what it was like. My mother was a housewife or homemaker, how we say today. And so in a very traditional, classic kind of upbringing, work hard. First comes the work, then comes the fun. That's how I grew up, Andrew.
I really look forward to getting into your story because you have some crazy transitions from being a broke single mom and an immigrant to being an accidental entrepreneur. Before we get there, what was your relationship to money as a kid?
As a kid, I don't think I had a real challenge with money because I started my entrepreneurial journey selling posters out of my bedroom when I was like 12 years old. And it was because I didn't have any money, but I wanted the posters. So I figured out if I was the poster distributor, then I would get the posters and I'd sort of accumulate credits. And so I would collect the money from others. And sometimes the poster distributor even sent me an extra poster or two by accident. And then I was making extra money because I could resell that. Or I had extra inventory by accident. So my relationship was good. My relationship with money when I was a single mom, now that is an entirely different story. When you have to earn your own money and it's not somebody's giving you a compensation for a service that you provide, like on a payroll, but when you have to create your own money and create your own value system on saying this is what I'm worth, now that's a whole different story.
So talk about what was that like? Because suddenly you have to not only earn money for yourself, but take care of your daughter. What kind of shift was that? What did that feel like?
It was a OMG shift. Is how in the world am I going to do that? So I started out as a representative and I represented other people. And that was even a little bit easier for me because I could talk about other people's value. And as I valued them and their day rate was a certain amount or their images were worth a certain amount, I then would get a percentage of that. So my value was determined by the value that I gave to them. That was okay. When I went into business on my own as a consultant, then I was really up against my money mindset piece where, yes, I am worth it. But am I really? And am I really owning that from a mindset perspective of, there's a difference between saying I'm worth $10,000 to really believing that what you provide is worth $10,000. And this double binding message oftentimes that sits between what we say but not really entirely believe is what creates this friction in money and in money flow. So that's been something that I was up against very hard when I started to go more into the consulting part of my business, because I couldn't hide anymore between valuing something else. I had to value myself.
It is much harder looking in the mirror, huh? Or when you have to speak for your own work.
100%. And that is because then suddenly you are hearing all the voices from your childhood. You're hearing all the things that your upbringing has taught you about money. You are living the story of your parents, of how they handled money. My mother is a both of my parents were World War II children, and my mother specifically comes from a military family. And so she still to this day has this, got a budget. You got to make it work. You have to save money. You have to put it away. I mean, she's 87. She doesn't really need to be saving any more money. But she loves this idea. I think it makes her feel comfortable because it reminds her of her childhood that if she stays within this tight budget that she's given her, that somehow that gives her that reminder of what it used to be like, and that's her mindset. I can do it. I have two things about this, Andrew, and I bet, in your teachings, you do something very similar to that. I always tell my clients that when you think about making money, if you think about protecting what you have, think about what that gesture, that physical gesture would look like. You would put your arms over your child's head, right? And you protect it. That energy goes down. If you think about growing, now the energy goes up, right? Because growth goes upward. So it's something as simple as that, as when you think about money to say, am I protecting or am I focusing on growing it? That already starts the trajectory of how you view money.
Talk a little bit about that time. Reflect for us when you were a single mom, and I know at one time you had a lot of debt. What were some of the things going through your head? How has your thinking changed from that time? And what was that process like?
Yeah, this was an interesting process because, I was broke. I was $135,000 in debt, not once, but twice. And I got myself out of it the first time when the lawsuit was settled, and I got the settlement. I paid everything. When it was all said and done, I ended up with nothing. So then I went back into debt because I needed to build up this business. So the idea about the stress that it has on a single mother with no family, No help. I mean, it was me and my child. That was it. I couldn't go to anybody. Is that you have a lot of resentment because you feel that something somewhere unfairly treated you, right? But those were my decisions. I married that man. I got pregnant, right? So this was everything that I did. Nobody forced me to say yes at the altar. Nobody forced me to accept the proposal. Nobody forced me to give a child. It was really my choice.
Was this first lawsuit, was that lawsuit the divorce?
Yeah. No, the first lawsuit was an employee that got too close to my key vendor, and then they set up their own business, which was my business, without me. And so I lost that business to them and couldn't recover it. And I sued them both. And so I was involved in about a 1 year long lawsuit. It was absolutely brutal. And so the thought is, well, am I in a victim mentality? But you don't think you're in a victim mentality at the time. You just think that the odds are stacked against you. And then what our subconscious mind does, or our brain does, it looks for other information that already confirms what I already believe in. So, I was in the mindset, well, being a single mom is hard. Being in Los Angeles is hard. Everything is so expensive. So I was falling into that exact same thing that people that don't have money say all the time. All the excuses of I'm just working so hard. It's just not coming together. I don't know what it is. It's not me. It's them. It's the system. It's the whatever. In my desperation, I wrote a letter to the President of the United States, Andrew. And in that letter, I said, I'm doing everything right. I'm working hard. I'm pushing, but I'm finding myself in this situation. September 11th wiped out the other half of my business. I don't even know what to do. I'm deep into debt. I have this great business idea. I want to make it work. I don't know what to do. And then I let it go and I released it. So if I look back and I dissect that now, I say, well, I was in a victim mentality, but there was a part of me that said, if it is possible, I need to be able to figure out how it works, because I was looking at other people. Like, I was going to these conferences and I saw women that would be on stage that would talk about on how they had overcome just these crazy obstacles. And they were single moms at times, and their stories were brutal. And so they said, well, this is how I got out of it. So I started to shift my mindset, Andrew, out of, if they're doing it, it must be possible. If it is possible, it must be possible for me. If it's possible for me, then the question is not can I, but then the question is how can I? And that's how I shifted into what can I do to get myself out of it? And that's how I wrote the letter to the President of the United States. And that was the beginning of the turn.
Your circumstances, in many cases, are highly unlikely and pretty brutal. For
highly
audience,
unlikely is a nice way to put it. Yes.
for the listener, can you summarize some of the crazy circumstances that you found yourself in?
Yes. So let's go through all of that. So I went through riots, fires, floods, an earthquake, September 11th, a lawsuit. I lost a key vendor in a tsunami. I mean, who does this even happen to? And then on top of all of this, I go to Germany to drum up some business. My father has a stroke. My father did not have a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer with a tumor that had metastasized in his brain that caused that stroke, and he died 6 weeks later. So this was in a period of where the hits just kept coming, and they weren't little hits, they were big hits. So I'm standing at the grave of my dad, and we literally just had put his body in the ground. And my phone rings, and it's my office in Los Angeles telling me that we have been served a notice while I'm not even there, by the new landlord that wanted to get me out because I'd been in there for so long. And now I'm losing the house on top of everything, being in debt, being single, having lost my best friend. And that is when you get to that crossroads in life so often where you say it's all or nothing.
So was it the going to conferences and hearing these women speak that got you to write the letter to the White House? I understand that it was your ex-mother-in-law who made that suggestion.
Yes, and this is sort of an interesting story, funny and not funny in the same time. So my ex-mother-in-law was a little bit of pain in the butt. So if you said green, she said red. If you said yellow, she said blue. So she thought her purpose in life was to give the other side just to make you think about something, which drove me absolutely crazy. Can this woman for once agree with me? But what she did do is she pushed me. And she says, well, what's another way to think about it? Well, if you really don't know what to do, why don't you take it to the boss of the boss of the boss's boss, the president of the United States? I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Who does that? And she says, people write letters to the president of the United States all the time. Why don't you go straight to the top? And I wrote that letter to the president because she just would not be quiet about it. Every time I saw her, she's like, did you write the letter to the president? If the president can help you, anybody can help you. It's the president. You got to do the work. And then finally, I'm like, I'm just going to write the letter just so I don't have to talk to her about this anymore. And I wrote the letter. And that is what changed my life. And so you want to, when God, spirit, the universe, or circumstance, whatever you want to call it, right, puts this in front of your lap, and no matter how ridiculous it sounds, it might be that opportunity that changes your life. So imagine my surprise when I got back after all of this, after my father is buried. I have to figure out how I move my office and my house on money I don't have, and I get a letter from the White House.
And what does it say?
The president sends his best wishes. And I'm like, I am absolutely 100% certain that the president of the United States never saw this letter. But that is irrelevant, because what it did do, it put me in touch with a small business administration, and not with some underling or some manager or director, but with the deputy chief director, the number 2 in charge for all of the county of Los Angeles. And so, because it was from the White House. So I'm walking in with my portfolio, I'm walking in with my business plan. I was prepared. And so we sat down. I remember him. His name is Lorenzo Flores, now retired. And he said to me, I'll put in what you put in. And for the first time in years, I had a glimmer of hope. And then they did find me a bank that was going to restructure my $135,000 in debt into a 10-year fixed loan, which freed up my line of credit, which was $45,000. And with that free cash now, I was able to get to break even in 3 months. This is how close it was between bankruptcy and break even. 3 months, Andrew. If we really think about, how tight these things are, sometimes in entrepreneurship, that's why, I'm here to promote the message, don't give up, double down, don't back off. And 18 months later, after this worst moment of my life where I buried my dad, I'm the world leader in my category. And that's what attracted the Bill Gates company to ask me how much I would want for what I had created.
Tell us what your business was at that time.
So the business was a stock photography syndication, and we were licensing the rights to images that top, really A-list photographers had taken of homes and design and living well and gardens. So anything that had to do with living. And the application of these images are coffee table books, design books. When you go to Home Depot or a paint store, you see the paint brochures with images. Those were our images. The brand leading images for Coldwell Banker at the time, those were our images. And we were in magazines. We literally were in every magazine and every book all over the world. And we had built up a distribution system into 97 countries in the world, and we had a very strong resale network. Now, what had happened as a side effect, which I hadn't even thought about when I started this, is that the A-list photographers, because I learned, Andrew, If you go after business, go after A. Don't go after C. Go after A. Don't. This whole idea is like start at the bottom, work your way up. Why? Start at the top. It's so much easier. And these A-list photographers work with A-list interior designers and A-list architects who design and build homes for A-list celebrities. So next thing I know, I'm getting these at-home stories from Madonna, Seal, Francis Ford Coppola, Simon Baker, Julianne Moore, and they just keep on coming because that's what these guys do. And they say, well, do you know what to do with those? Now, in my previous life, I was a photographer and I worked for Elle magazine in Germany. So I was the one who bought these stories. You think I know how to sell these? I absolutely did. So we became the world leader in at-home stories of celebrities and personalities worldwide. And that became the thing that Bill Gates wanted to buy.
Why was Bill Gates interested in that?
Bill Gates has a number of privately owned companies. I mean, you know, he has holding companies and stuff, but he doesn't share that with anybody else. Not Microsoft. It's his own. These are his own businesses. And so he had bought a business that he called Corebiz, where he had bought a number of different collections to compete with Getty Images. And he had purchased a celebrity portraiture company, the top portrait company for stock photography for celebrities. And they couldn't grow that business. And so they were looking for how would they expand that. And so their thinking was if they had the at-home stories and they had the portraiture, they could now sell more because they could match the portraits with the at-home stories. And we literally were the only ones that were doing it at that scale.
So how much time between 3 months from bankruptcy to getting the banking relationship that helped you to be break even and then the Bill Gates outreach and offer?
Yeah, so the bank, the first time I talked to this SBA to the bank was about 3 months. 3 months after that, we were break even. And then 18 months after that, we were the world leader and we were selling. So it was between 2004 and 2006.
And how did that communication start with Bill Gates entities? What did that look like?
So I'm a strategist. So what I do is I always have a strategy for everything. So I had a strategy that I used when I went to the industry conferences. And as a woman, I looked at who got the meetings at these conferences. And it really wasn't the women. It was mostly the men. And I could not get my foot in the door with these big companies. So I looked what happened, what they did, and I found out that they all would go to the hotel bar after the conference. And so I decided that the way for me to get to know all of them was to go to the bar after the conference and make my connections. And so I came up with this rule, Andrew, and it's in my book, Happy Woman, Happy World, where I call this the Cinderella Rule. And the Cinderella Rule is when you're a woman in business, you always must go to the always must go to the bar. You always dress up, a 3-drink maximum. You're in bed by midnight and you do walk to your room alone. And when you follow this, what happens is you build these relationships because many men don't have a 3-drink rule. They just keep drinking and drinking. They're away from home. They're finally letting their hair down, blowing off a little bit of steam. So they'll tell you all kinds of things that they probably should not be telling you. And so you keep your mouth shut. You see them at the next morning after you suddenly disappeared at midnight like Cinderella. And they're embarrassed and they don't really exactly know what happened. And you just, don't say a word about anything. And you build a relationship because you can be trusted, right? So what happens outside of work, happens outside of work. Whatever is being said is safe with me. And so suddenly I was getting these meetings. And so when I was ready for putting my business up for sale, this was a strategy I had developed. So after I was broke for so long, believe me, I wanted to have the money. I wanted to have the equity business. I wanted nobody ever to be able to throw me out. I wanted my own house. I wanted to be able to put my daughter through college. And so I myself put myself out on the market and said, this is ready for sale. And I got 3 offers, and one was too good to refuse.
It's an amazing story. It's an amazing transition. And I know that you call it cracking the code. What are some of the things that we can learn? Is the code repeatable?
Yes. I think that there's a couple of things when we talk about money or when we talk about succeeding. So most people are stuck in the middle class mindset forever and ever and ever, because that's just the way it is. That's the way society is. That's the way it's been set up. That's the way the structure worked. That's what we're taught. That's what you're taught in school. That's what you're taught in university. And then suddenly somebody throws you out in entrepreneurship, and then you need to change your mindset to get a different result. So what I think is really critical to point out for your audience, Andrew, is that you have to work on your mindset, and you have to work on your mindset every single day. Because this program that runs, that your parents put in before you were 7, runs all the time. That's your core operating system. If you don't take consciously a different USB stick and plug it in on the other side so that it overrides that old program, the minute you take it out and you don't do the work, the other program runs again, which is why we see people making a step forward, then they stop doing the work, and then they fall right back because the old program kicks in. So I think what I learned, and I do this to this day, Andrew, and I bet you do something very similar to that, is that you have to be conscious about what's your mindset, and how do I view money? What is my money mindset? Do I say I deserve it, sort of in that stubborn temper tantrum kind of way? I deserve better. Or is it something that I am declaring as my truth to Spirit, God, the universe, and say, this is, David Nagel, my mindset trainer, always says, I will not be denied my success. So what is it at the core of your being that you truly believe about money? And if that belief system is not a belief system that allows you to do a quantum leap, and a quantum leap is an inexplicable burst of energy between 2 atoms. If it's possible in nature, it must be possible. If it is possible, it must be possible for me. If it's possible for me, then it's not a question, can I? But then the question is, how can I? So we get back to that. So it's a very, very straightforward idea. So if you think it, why think $100,000? Why not think $1 million? I mean, the thought is the same thought. If you think $1 million, why not think $5 million? It's the same thought, right? It's just the number that's changing. But I think people oftentimes just come from the perspective of what's real or realistic. Andrew, why don't you and I a little bit more realistic about this, okay? Like, why would somebody from Germany, single mom in debt, be able to sell a business to Bill Gates? Come on, let's just get real here for a second, right? That kind of stuff you just can't listen to.
So define for us what a healthy, big money mindset looks like, in your view.
My view, it is that I've been studying a lot the universal laws and how they affect sort of money. So I find that my money mindset has to be that if I'm asking for a $50,000 gig, I cannot show up in a JCPenney $30 jacket. If I'm asking for big money, I need to look big money. If I want to ask for a $10,000 day rate, and my day rate is $7,500 at the time of this recording, I cannot show up in a t-shirt with spots on it and in shoes where the heels are completely worn off. I need to be that part, and I need to look that part, and I need to feel that part. I can go and clip coupons and look for deals if I want other people to pay full price for me. So if I want to get full price, then I need to be paying full price. If I want people to be generous to me, I need to be generous. So when you go to the coffee shop, and it's the little things we always get caught in. So my coffee at the coffee shop across the street is now at $5.50 for a cup of coffee. That in itself is absolute insanity. But there's my old program that says, are you nuts to spend this much money every day on a cup of coffee that's like, the 6-ounce coffee? And there's a part of me where I go, but I like it. I deserve it. It makes me feel good. I'm supporting a local business. Not just do I pay $5.50, I also tip every single time I go. That brings my coffee to above $6 or $6.50, somewhere around the line. So you make a decision on as above, so below, as on the inside, it is reflected on the outside. It has to be a congruent action in money, with money mindset. If you want to make big money, you need to be able to spend big money. I just invested $25,000 in a mastermind. That's a lot of money for a program. But I'm building a program where I want to charge people to, between $15,000 and $25,000, because we just did an authority building program and a growth plan and a system building. So we're launching 3 programs. If I want people to pay big money, how is that going to work if I'm not willing to pay big money for myself? So the messaging has to be right. So people think that they can make the money first and then something will happen. But you can only make the money if you already made the commitment to it and you step into it, because if you had the money, you would be making the investment right now. So you think you're going to continue with the same way to get to the point where you're going to have the money, which is insanity. And then something's going to happen. So you just keep postponing and postponing and postponing. And I see this in coaching all the time, Andrew, where people say, oh my God, you're amazing. I want to work with you. I see the results you're getting. You're getting people, people routinely walk out and they close 5- and 6-figure deals because they finally know how to talk about it. And then they go, well, I'm going to manifest the money now. And then when I'm at that point, then I will sign up for you. And I'm like, that under the law of how money works is the exact opposite. You asked how you could get there. You asked for finding somebody who can get you there. You found somebody who get there. You even saying it as somebody who can get you there, and then you chicken shit out. That's the opposite of a good money mindset. So if you say it, you must own it. And when you feel that anxiety of the, I call these the oh shit moments in life, when you go, oh shit, what did I do? You double down. You don't back off, because this is a decision that needs to be made to get to that next level. You can't have a quantum leap without a risk. It just doesn't work.
How do you explain this energy around money?
The more I dive into this, Andrew, the more I learn that when we look at certain laws in how life operates, right? So everybody understands the law of gravity. So you're not going to fall off the planet. You know that if you're on a ladder and you fall, gravity, there's nobody there. There's no magic hand of God that'll float you away. You'll fall. You're going to get hurt somehow. But when it comes to other laws that are not so visible, people are always skeptical. But the more we work on this, the more laws on how the world operates we are discovering. And now with the telescope being able to look this far out, we realize that a lot of the laws of the universe we don't even know yet, because there are things that are happening that we just simply cannot understand. We don't have the understanding of that yet. So if you want to explain it, you always look into nature and you say, well, and the example, again, that my mindset trainer gives is like, you don't see a squirrel freaking out about wanting to go to squirrel school and learn how to be a really good squirrel. They just do. And there are butterflies that are flying without ever having been there, following some sort of an instinct all across from Canada all the way to Mexico. And the geese flying from Canada to Mexico, and you go like, well, how do they know? They've never even been there. How does a goose know it needs to go all the way up in the jet stream and then fly? I mean, how is that even possible? So if we were to trust that there is a energy that drives everything and tap into that more, we'd have a much better time in life and living, because then we wouldn't be freaking out. But we're being fed this perpetual fear-based nonsense, especially the media has just gotten out of control. It's like, and here's another variant, but this one is the really bad one. Oh, no, wait, here's another variant. Well, no, this one's even worse. And don't trust anything. Don't do anything. Everything is so expensive. We are in a recession. People are losing their jobs. We are creating with our joint consciousness this because we all believe in what we're being told instead of saying, is this even true?
Beate, since you've been through very difficult times, when you had $135,000 in debt, you really couldn't afford to go pay $6 for the cup of coffee. So what were the little steps that really initiated change?
The steps that I took is that I had this really strong core belief that the joke wasn't going to be on me. I mean, that was my driving thought. I thought it's just not possible that the end of this, I'll be the one the joke is on. I mean, I just couldn't fathom that. I mean, that was such a strong core belief. I found things that made me feel rich or made me feel wealthy. I would go and take my bike to the beach. And I'd be riding my bike on the beach going, look, I'm living in California. I'm on my bike, cute mom with my baby, stuffing half-eaten apples in my bike pants, riding up and down the bike. Look at that. I mean, not everybody has that kind of life. I'd have a picnic, if I couldn't afford to go to dinner. I'd make myself a cup of tea, and I'll make it, and I didn't get like a cheap tea bag. I made real tea, loose tea, and I celebrated it in a nice pot of tea, and I got a cookie with it. So you look for these celebratory aspects that you can grant yourself, or you go to a public park. Here in Los Angeles, we have really great parks. You go on a hike in the Santa Monica Mountains and you have a 360-degree view of the entire city. That's free. So there's a lot of things you can do that are free or not that expensive to start getting yourself in the mindset of gratitude and appreciation for what you have, because the gratitude is the first step to changing the energy around money.
Give us examples in your life.
Yeah, I'll give you one more example. So I would pick up a penny on the street and I'd pick it up and I'd go, oh my God, money literally lies on the street. There is money absolutely everywhere. Look at that. I don't even have to look for money. Money finds me. Isn't this amazing? There's money absolutely everywhere. So I would talk to myself about changing my money mindset. And then I've had 25 cents on the street. I'm going, oh my God, what a brilliant day I had today. I found even more money than I've ever found, because our subconscious doesn't know it's a penny or 25 cents. So you can't say, oh, well, it's just a penny. What's that going to do? You have to make a big deal to get that message home that money is there for you to be found. And then money will come. It does. I mean, I'm living proof of it.
You made reference to things we learn in school versus living in the real world, being very different. To what extent do you think that life is just a game?
I would not necessarily call it a game. I would say that Life is a tremendous opportunity. And that the misunderstood concept, which often plays out with your money mindset, is that you are here to sit time out until you die. And I really want to shift that with the people I work with and what I do, because, we say we scale impact and grow authority because we are an impact-driven company. And the impact comes from helping people to really step into connecting their passion with their work and how they touch people and reach out. If I step into that deep purpose of my life, it's not a game, it's an opportunity, it's a privilege. So I've said to my daughter, now that she's getting married and I'm working on the will and the testament and the medical directives and all these things, because everything has to be revamped, and the trust, I said, if I look at my life, it's great. I made amazing mistakes. I had amazing victories. I had amazing failures. And I met incredible people in my life. I have no regret of would I do things differently today with what I know now? Sure, I would. But I really have learned that here and now is where you need to be. Don't look for the destination. The destination is guaranteed. We all will die, right? That's our guaranteed destination. So if that is the ultimate outcome of our lives, and I reverse engineer the experience, wouldn't I reverse the engineered experience for fun, fulfillment, enjoyment, gratitude, all these positive words? Then I would say, well, if I have this much time, do I really have time to listen to all these negative news, or am I going to create my own fortune? And so in that sense, if you say, well, let's gamify the experience, well, perhaps you have a point, Andrew. But it really is, what do you want to say at the end of the day about your life? Do you want to say, like me, what a great ride? Or do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I brought up gamification. I brought up, is life a game? Only because I suspect that your strategy of going to the bar, I know that you're big on strategy and processes, and it seems like you are trying to teach other people, and more specifically, teach women. It's like, how do you play the game effectively? The things that you weren't taught in school.
Yeah, it's about the structure. So I look at this from the perspective of there's an existing structure that's been built by men for men and has been in effect for thousands of years. And we've been able to adjust the structure to a certain extent just because so many women are working now, so many people who are different and non-conforming work in there. But, following on what I said, the original programming is so strong that unless you keep running this other USB port, we always revert back to the original programming. That's this conservative nonsense of going back to the Stone Ages and having total control over everything, right? Because people are so bloody fearful in life. And so if I look at that from the perspective of, I know that that's the case, then my objective as a strategist and as somebody who is the growth architect is, what can I create as a structure, as a new structure that overrides that old structure for my clients, for people I work with, for people that are here to make that big impact, so they can not follow the structure that doesn't work anyway for people that are like that. But what if we are able to take that structure and create a new structure that is so strong and that they're so passionate about, that they keep following that because that is who they truly are. And so that's how we design these custom strategies and these plans. It is what is it that you want, Andrew? Where do you want to take this business? How many people do you want to impact? What are the vehicles that we're using to help you grow that authority and scale that impact, that you can reach more people with your message about money, right? And then we reverse engineer that strategy and look, what are you really good at? What do you really truly believe in? How big do you want to go? And that determines then how we build it.
When you sold the company and got that offer that was so great, what did it feel like to deposit that check?
Like when you open that account and this number is in there, you go, that's not even real. But, when it comes to the whole set of other things that you need to learn, like investing and what do I do with the money? How do I make that money last? How do I create the income of the money? How do I not touch the principal? How do I manage the fluctuations in the market? How do I not go nuts when the market goes down? The feeling really was that I felt I finally arrived and had access to a level, to a club that I wanted to be in. I belonged.
Because of the figure?
Yeah, I think it was that Andrew, it was more like, because I worked so hard for it and I fought so hard for it. It was like the justification that everything I did wasn't for nothing, that it was all part of this plan that eventually worked out. And so this was the confirmation that I was right all along. That's where the confidence comes from. The money is the compensation for it. But the internal part is to say, I gambled, your words. I put it all out there. I fought. I made it happen. I believed. I'm not drowning in the puddle. I kept plugging away. I had the discipline to think about money only twice a month when I had to pay bills. I stayed focused and I did it. So I confirmed that what I believed in was the right thing to believe in. And of course, that sets the trajectory of everything else that I'm doing now in a completely different way, because I'm like, yeah, well, I know my stuff.
As a strategist, I get the sense that you're always thinking and you really never stop moving. Did you take a moment just to sort of take a break? Or did you
No.
have a vision of where you would go next?
The vision had started to form all along, and the vision was around that it was so difficult to get there that I felt that I needed to be the person that was speaking now to other women, men, people, entrepreneurs, podcasters, and coaches, consultants, people that really wanted to make an impact in their lives about how to overcome adversity and how to not lose faith, and giving them the strategies to succeed. So I systematized what I did. I always knew that this was the first step in something much bigger that I was here to do.
You mentioned in our conversation several times where there's a fork in the road, you had to double down. What do you tell people that are fearful in that moment? And it's scary to double down when you have plan A and no plan B. It has to work. You've done that several times.
I never had a plan B. I don't even know what a plan B is. I would say that I'm quoting Maria Shriver here. She says, you don't need courage if you don't feel fear. You have to rely on courage. So if I go through this logically, like the woman that I mentioned earlier, who says, I was praying for somebody like you. Now I found you. I'm sure that you are the right person. You're the right person for this. And I'm here now, and now I'm going to say no. You have to trust that when you ask for something and it shows up, it doesn't show up the way you want. Because the opportunity, if you knew how to create these opportunities, you would have done it already. So your job is just to put it out there. And then when it comes to you, you can't judge it and say, oh, I wanted it with a red bow, not a blue bow. And this is not the right kind of box for me, okay? I asked for a box in like a silver. This is more goldish. Absolutely not. You know, like when the letter from the White House came back, I didn't ask. I didn't want to talk to the SBA. I didn't want to restructure my debt. I wanted somebody to give me free money, right? I said, well, that's the opportunity that I created. I better follow the path. And then when he says, this is how we're going to do it, I had no reason to judge this as wrong because I asked for that. It happened. Now it's here. Now I'm going to do exactly what they tell me because they know what they're doing. That's why I did it in the first place. So people judge in these fearful moments when the opportunities come. It's too expensive. This coach is too expensive. They're asking for too much money. Look, if you want to have a $50 an hour coach, I can tell you right now, you're not going to get anywhere. If somebody is worth their money, they're going to charge the money because they have the confidence that they have the system to get you there. So the question is time or money. You're going to invest time or money. So if you don't put the money in, you're going to invest the time, and the time is what's going to cost you way more in the long run. So my systems are designed to get done in minimum amount of time with maximum impact because I want to honor people's time. And that's why I charge what I charge, because I'm saving you years to figure this out. So you can spend years, figuring this out, or you can pay me my fee and I'll teach it to you in a day. So the fear is something you're going to have to learn how to live with. It will never, ever go away. It is the courage that you need to build up. So when the fear shows up, you say, pivotal moment in my life, there is the fear. Now I'm going to slay that fear with my courage, and I'm going to move on to the next level.
Beate, I'd like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
This is a very personal thing to me. Success is defined for me as being able to be generous with the people I love and to support as many people possible. Success is to share the information and impact a lot of other people. Success is to have a lot of money in the bank and to be able to be properly compensated for the work that I do. Success is to be in a wonderful relationship. Success is my daughter getting married. Success is enjoyment in life to me.
Well, thank you for sharing your hard times, your good times, and the ingredients that we can draw from. Tell the Inspired Money listeners and viewers where they can follow you and learn more.
So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to know a little bit about my system, you can go to airtightavatar.com. I've built in my system, like the first step is how to figure out who your ideal client is, because that drives every decision in your business. Who are you even selling to? So again, that's airtightavatar.com. I've also created a paper, a little ebook that talks about the 3 essential framework elements that you need to know if you want to be successful in business, to grow your authority. You find that at successblueprint.biz. Other than that, check out my website, beatechelette.com, or find me as the Growth Architect or Beate Chelette on all social media. Reach out. I always love to hear from the audience. While we're at it, Andrew's doing a phenomenal job with this podcast. Please leave him a review, 5 stars. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Share it with one other person that needs to have this Inspired Money message today.
Thank you, Beate. So what was your favorite Inspired Money moment? I think we can all improve our money mindset, and it pays to think bigger, to really push the boundaries of your imagination. Who knows? Maybe you'll sell a company to Bill Gates. I love what Beate said about going for the top. Go after the A-list clients because the work and effort are often the same. It makes me think of working at an expensive French restaurant versus the local diner. No disrespect to our diner workers, but the tips at the French restaurant tend to be much higher. If you had a different favorite Inspired Money moment, please post a comment or share it in the Inspired Moneymakers Facebook group at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook. Thank you for tuning in to the end. Be sure to subscribe to my email that goes out every 2 weeks. It's investment focused, and the Runnymede investment team highlights data, news, and events that we think are worth sharing. Subscribe at inspiredmoney.fm/newsletter. Thank you for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.